Here's the most important things you need to know about dealing with powers and roots. So write down the value of 7 to the power of 2, we say 7 squared. Now to the power of 2 means times by itself, so 7 to the power of 2 means 7 times 7, which would of course just give us 49. Now minus 3 to the power of 2, or minus 3 squared then, would be minus 3 times by itself, so minus 3 times minus 3. Now remember, two negatives times together to make a positive, so this actually becomes positive 9. That's a really important point there. When we square a negative number, we actually get a positive. Question 2. What two integers would the square root of 17 be between? Now this symbol here, as I said, it represents the square root. It's basically the opposite of squaring something. Now we want to figure out what two numbers the square root of 17 would end up being between. So what we need to do is think of numbers near 17 that we can take the square root of. These are known as our square numbers. So just below 17 we actually have 16. Now the square root of 16 would actually give us 4, because 4 times 4, 4 squared, gives us 16. Now above 17, the next square number above that is 25, because if we take the square root of 25, we get 5. So the square root of 17 then is going to be somewhere between 4 and 5. It's probably going to be a lot closer to 4 than 5, but all we need to say is it's somewhere between those two numbers. So 4 and 5 are the two numbers it's going to be between. Now question number 3, work out 3 to the power of 3. Now let's think about what a power of 3 is actually going to do. Now if we think back to what happened when we took a power of 2, that had two 7s times by each other. So when you have a power of 3, you're going to have 3 lots of the number timesing by each other. So this is actually going to be 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. Times that by 3, we get 27. So 3 to the power of 3, we say 3 cubed, turns out to be 27. Now minus 1 cubed would then be minus 1 times minus 1 times minus 1. Now minus 1 times minus 1 becomes positive 1, and then 1 times minus 1 goes back to negative 1 again. So when you cube a negative number, it actually stays negative. So in the last question, write down the value of, and this looks a lot like a square root, but you can see it's got a little 3 next to it. That actually means the cube root of. So we're working out what the cube root of minus 8 is. Now what that means is we need to think of a number that times by itself 3 times to give us negative 8. And that number is going to be minus 2, because minus 2 times minus 2 times minus 2 is going to give us minus 8. So minus 2 is the number that times by itself 3 times to give you minus 8. So the cube root of minus 8 would be minus 2. Here's some for you to try. Pause the video and give them a go.